Hello, 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 and welcome to Heavy Hands. I'm Connor. Joining me as always, it's Phil.
Yo.
Phil, I've mentored you for a long time, and it's been a difficult road. You know, the path to mastership is not always straightforward, and I would say you've been in the journeyman phase of your apprenticeship for quite some time now. But you have finally achieved a Connor Rebush level of fight-picking ability. You saw Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez perfectly, and then talked yourself out of it.
Hooray!
You saw this shit coming.
Also, how dare you call me your apprentice? You're not my real dad.
Now, son, I don't want to have this conversation again. You saw this shit perfectly. You were like, Sean Strickland can Anthony Hernandez deal with jab and circle? Can he deal with that? When there's no easy avenue into getting takedowns, like, isn't he just going to be stuck getting poked by Sean Strickland until the fight is over? You saw every aspect of this fight except the finish, and then you just came around to the wrong side by fight week.
I think my favorite thing is that, like, we talked about the possibility of a finish. We were like, well, whatever happens, he's not going to get finished with like a teep to the body, because John Strickland never does that.
Yep.
The only real route to a finish is like some random knee happens in the clinch, which is always on the table. But, you know, you can pick that if you like, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yep.
And that is 100% like the kind of take that I will always stand behind, is that, like, there are some times when someone just has a very clear way that they might go out.
Yep.
And, you know, you can't actually pick it, but you should pick it if you want to occasionally throw a big Hail Mary pass that you can just be like, look, this guy never finished this. Anyone finished this guy off. But yeah, I mean, I don't super regret like not picking Strickland either. I regret that I managed to convince Zane to pick him, because now Zane's going to be happy, and I never want that.
Did Zane pick him?
Yeah.
God damn it. I'm going to have to talk to that motherfucker tomorrow, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know how happy he gets with his correct picks.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, because I talked Zane into it pretty much over the course of our Strickland depressed us.
Yeah. When Zane is right about a pick, he will teach you the sound of one hand clapping.
Mm-hmm.
He'll teach you the sound of one hand doing a lot of stuff, because the other hand is occupied.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I did actually. I mean, this was a pretty, this was a combination, as they always are, of like a pretty bad fluffy fight. But I actually thought this was like a really good Sean Strickland fight. Like,
yeah. I don't even think it was a disastrous fluffy fight. Like, I think one thing I'll say is that me going on and on about how you don't really think that, and I think I had this discussion with Zane. You don't think that Fluffy's striking looked substantially better against Roman Dolidze than it has in the past. I think it is better, no question. Like, there was some pretty intelligent pressure from him in this fight. I love what he has been doing lately with his feints. His own straight punching has gotten much better. His defense has gotten much better. He just keeps his hands in a better guarding position. He moves his head. I mean, there was one point in this fight where he ducked and then hit a pivot out of the pocket. Like, the man has absolutely leveled up as a striker. And I think all of that was on display. Like, nothing about this until we got to like the back half of round 2, and it was clear that he was actually getting frustrated and didn't have a clear way to build. Nothing at the very beginning of this fight screamed, this is a fight Anthony Hernandez has to lose.
Yeah.
He got stuck at that range and in that
aside from the
mode.
fact-
But
aside from the fact that it became very apparent that he had that the takedowns just weren't going to materialize ever.
yeah,
I think that's the main thing, is that if you just like, as soon as you put these guys in a fight and you're just like, if you told me like Fluffy Hernandez is not going to hit one takedown in this fight, okay then, that's that then. But yeah, that being said, and as I said, I thought this was a good Sean Strickland performance. Like, you know, compared it to the Usman fight, and he's so skittery in the Usman fight compared to this one.
yeah.
This fight, he still has, you know, Sean Strickland footwork, but he's standing his ground much more. He's still getting pushed back to the fence, but he was always making sure there was a threat or a cost for Hernandez moving backwards as he did so. In the Usman fight, he's basically full on doing the Alexander Gustafsson at several points where he's just running along the side of the cage.
Yeah.
And he's constantly collapsing. This time, he is gradually getting forced back, and he's, you know, circling the same way and all this other kind of stuff, but he's constantly in a position to fire. And more than that, he's constantly in a position to just like drop his hands and fight the takedown.
Yeah.
Which means that, you know, you realize suddenly how much of Fluffy's entries have been reliant on his opponents panicking, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, how isn't that the book on the successive pressure fighting in MMA writ large? Like, people are bad at outfighting, and that's why pressure fighters dominate the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Someday, people are going to learn. And boy, I hate to say it, and I wouldn't copy his technique. I'm not sure that anybody could, to be fair, but you could learn from Sean Strickland. Like, as you were saying, the footwork is not actually good. He does a lot of really questionable stuff. Ryan Wagner posted a nice compilation on Twitter of Strickland shifting backwards. I like how we have a technical term for something which I would just call bad footwork.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what it means is he abandons his stance in order to create more space more quickly. And you know, he does all kinds of stuff like this. He's got this weird disconnect between his hands and his feet. But it is intentional footwork. However much it may not be technically pristine, it's all intentional. He knows what he's doing. And he is actually cutting angles in an attempt to keep his jab between himself and his opponent. And that's really that's the story of outfighting that MMA fighters in general need to learn. And yes, they could in fact learn something from Sean Strickland.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I also thought it was a pretty good performance from Sean. I think the real turning point was how he met one of Hernandez's big adjustments. Hernandez's corner, once they caught on to the fact that Fluffy kept getting countered coming in, they wanted him to feint or initiate with a jab and then change levels to attack. And probably in the long run, they were hoping this would also set up some takedowns, but they wanted him coming under Sean's punches because Strickland doesn't typically have a lot of super reliable, like tall guy level change counter tools.
Mm-hmm.
He is himself largely a headhunter, an upstairs straight shooting puncher with his hands. And shit, even his body attacks, they tend to be those fucking teeps. They all tend to be long, straight shots. And I think that's around the time that Strickland started standing his ground because he kept getting Hernandez ducking and closing in on him. And that exact move is what set up the knee that ended the fight. Strickland meeting Hernandez's entry with a clinch knee, just as Hernandez started to try to duck under the hands he saw coming at his face.
Yep. It was an interesting thing where I also found myself thinking that, like, it's been even at welterweight, it's been relatively infrequent frequent that we actually see Sean Strickland against someone who's shorter than him.
Oh yeah.
Like, because he fought like huge welterweights most of the time as well. What was the big? He fought the big British lad who unfortunately flamed out. Tom Breese, yeah, there we go. He fought ZDS. He fought Usman. Like, he just entirely fought like really big welterweights. And
CDS was definitely shorter than him. Zaleski was definitely shorter, but he also kicked his head off. But yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
but like how
middleweight,
infrequently we've seen him like with like a significant like he's just like bigger than his opponent. And yeah, I thought he'd suddenly like his game just looked a lot more potent and functional.
Yeah,
like now that he was, and I think as I mentioned, Jack Slacky was like Sean Strickland actually works better on the back foot when people are coming towards him. I think that was 100% true. But also, like, it meant that there was a bigger range for him to actually have offense. So, like, Sean Strickland was actually throwing right hands that weren't like him windmill punching.
Yeah.
And, like straight right hands. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember him doing that. The last time he did that was against the other TriStar guy. Was it Garcia?
Yeah.
Alex Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he KO'd him with like a straight right hand. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember when Sean Strickland used to throw straight right hands.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing about because you mentioned that last week, Strickland being good off the back foot. I mean, I think you watch his back foot game, there is definitely an avenue for somebody to pressure him and really punish him.
Mm-hmm.
Even now,
for sure.
Like in the same way that Usman did. But they'd have to do it better than Usman probably, or at least be of Usman's caliber physically. There's a lot of technical weirdness to take advantage of, but if you don't have that toolkit, then and if you get stuck on the end of Sean Strickland's range, either that or you are yourself neutralized when you get super close to him, then I think he is actually at his best off the back foot. Just has somebody.
Yeah, and I think particularly when he has basically a reach advantage, a frame advantage. Like, we saw because we watched Jared Cannonier, basically, and Jared Cannonier is a former heavyweight with huge long arms.
Yeah.
And when Strickland is kind of retreating and looking to parry shots, and circling off to one direction, Cannonier is simply like punching through his hand traps and or just catching him on the retreat, consistently. As we mentioned, like it's a more one-sided fight than we remembered it being. But yeah, I think given the ability to like fight down, he's actually surprisingly effective and potent. All that being said, and I thought this was one of his better performances. More authoritative. He kept the pace up. Blah blah blah. Made it costly for Fluffy to approach him. And even considering the finish, it still wasn't actually that convincing.
Yeah,
like he was winning the rounds for sure, but I was like, he's not winning these rounds by actually that much. Like, this is the most convincing, authoritative Sean Strickland fight I've seen, since Arbus Magomedov or whatever, and it's still not that convincing or authoritative. And then Fluffy got hit to the body and it was over. But like, he still got like hit a bunch, and he wasn't really slowing Fluffy down in any meaningful way with anything he was landing.
Yeah.
And should that, somewhat non-replicable finish have not popped up, I wouldn't have been surprised if Fluffy had found some way to just force his way back into the fight, because that is simply how Sean Strickland fights go down the stretch.
Yep.
So it's such a weird fight at the end of the day, because I found myself thinking like, this is one of the best Sean Strickland performances I've seen in a long time. And he won it by finish against like a surging contender on a giant streak. And much of it still wasn't that convincing. In the same way that, like, the Israel Adesanya fight,
Right.
in retrospect, is not actually like a wildly convincing fight where he like breaks Izzy down.
Yeah, like it's definitely one where there's no question he wins. As with this one, he's winning every round. But yeah, that's just how his style works, man. Which is also, I think, why, because the other fight that this reminded me of was his bout with Brendan Allen, one of the other rare Sean Strickland finishes. Where, yeah, he gets somebody who is just sort of determined to walk into, not a wood chipper per se, a paper shredder over and over again. And that is when you actually get dangerous Sean Strickland. He's like a male Holly Holm. If you walk onto his shit ceaselessly, then he will end up hurting you. But he just has such a specific style that is as much a cage for him as it is like a weapons platform to use against his opponents. But again, like, I think Sean Strickland should be studied by other MMA fighters. He should also be studied by science, I think. If we could dissect the Sean Strickland, that would be very instructive and probably a net gain for the world. But, like, this, it's MMA fighters could stand to learn something from this style. Like, it's a style that doesn't tend to go out there and take dominant wins, but literally everyone except like Alex Pereira has a very difficult time dealing with it. It's very difficult to look good against. It's very difficult to fully take over a fight against Sean Strickland, just as much as it's difficult for him to fully take over a fight. And it's because he knows where he's putting his feet and why. He keeps his longest, most effective weapon online as often as possible, and he's defensively sound. None of these things are all that technically correct. The jab is really the only thing in, even the jab. I mean, again, the weird disconnect between feet and hands. Like, it's not like Strickland hits a nice pivot jab or whatever. He tends to be quite flat-footed and upright and all kinds of quibbles you could make and things that can be exploited by the right opponent. But the structure, the process of the game is strategically sound. And this is the turn that I am personally waiting for up on the big main stage of MMA, is when do MMA fighters figure out how to win fights off the back foot? Sean Strickland just gets it. He knows how to win that kind of fight. It's built into his game.
Yep. So yeah, it just remains to be seen. Like, does this get him a title shot?
God, I hope not. I think this should just be the role of Sean Strickland. Fight night main events, that's fine. He should just be an elite gatekeeper. I don't know who the fuck else they have to test against him. Anthony Hernandez was really like the big hope for like an interesting, exciting up-and-comer at middleweight. But if that means, if Sean Strickland has to be on the shelf for 3 years until they find another one, I can live with that.
He's fought everyone in the top 10 apart from Caio Borralho and Renier de Ridder.
Ooh, Sean Strickland, Caio Borralho. Wouldn't that be a dreadful fight? They should make that one next. That sounds horrible.
I think they might do the Kamzat thing. And what was it? They can do Imavov. Need to do Kamzat Imavov when they've got like someone who they know is going to go maximum raconteur mode for all this.
Didn't they book Kamzat versus someone?
Did they? Maybe I'm the one who doesn't pay any attention to...
No, it's both of us. No, it's simply that... Kamzat and Alex Pereira or some other people were talking about fighting, and Dana White came out of his blackjack hole to beg him not to try to change divisions, but to defend his title. So it was the fighters talking about.
I mean, yeah, if I had someone who fought about as often as Hamzat does and who couldn't come to America, I would also not want him locking up for more belts.
Yeah.
No, so they haven't booked anything, and what are they going to do? They can do Imavov, Chimaev when they can have, they can do. The only problem is that like no one knows what Sean Strickland's going to say and how much he's going to ruin and one of their lucrative relationships with the Gulf states in various ways. They already had to cut him off from the presser on this one, I think, because he was calling out Fluffy's coach for being a groomer.
Yeah, they didn't cut him off for any of the other heinous shit that he said to get attention.
No.
But it's only, I guess, when you make specific allegations about individuals in the UFC that it becomes a problem.
Sure. Yeah, also, like a culture war stuff, but make sure it's directed at the right people, please.
Yeah. Sean Strickland was fucking popping off about Star Trek. That made me mad. He got me with that one. I was like, there's no fucking way Sean Strickland likes Star Trek. And then, of course, I was introduced to some other people who are also, to me, the right-wing Star Trek fan is one of the strangest creatures that could possibly exist. Because it's as I said on Twitter, it's the wokest shit that's ever been on American television. But hey, they exist. They exist just like the people who watch Starship Troopers and think it looks like a really cool future for humanity. Those people exist too.
Well, it's like that quote about the person, when he's at school and his class is watching Dumbo, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I found myself remembering the day in kindergarten when the teachers showed us Dumbo, and I realized for the first time that all the kids in class, even the bullies, rooted for Dumbo against Dumbo's tormentors. They laughed and cheered, both when Dumbo succeeded and when bad things happened to his enemies. But they're you, I thought to myself. How did they not know?
Yeah.
They didn't know. It was astounding, an astounding truth. Everyone thought they were Dumbo.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, like people people in MMA love nerd shit, and in associated areas tend to love nerd shit, but also love, if they're in particular parts of it, love shitting on nerd shit.
Yeah.
From the other parts of nerddom, obviously, like the famous thing of this is like, is it Andrew Tate banging on about how Star Wars is for nerds and is like for utter losers and stuff? And then, like, half his shtick is about the Matrix and how the Matrix is the coolest thing in the world, baby.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, man.
I don't know. I think with Sean, like, this is why he's an asshole. Like, I don't think he earnestly believes a lot of the shit that he says. I think he, like a lot of these kinds of MMA fighters, has like a Terminator vision for things I can say that will get me attention.
Yeah. We've said this before. He's the kid in the class who's like says the things that are going to really upset the teacher,
right?
And then afterwards he's got like, "What do you think about that, guys?" And everyone's like, "Ah."
Yeah. Go sit at your own table, Sean.
It's like
we didn't invite you.
You realize this makes you less likable, right?
Yeah, I just think that's all that there is to it. I really think Sean Strickland has never watched and enjoyed Star Trek. I mean, I know these people who can watch that show and somehow come away with the takeaway that Star Trek is a show about the immutable characteristics of different races, which is a reply that I got. Those people exist. In Sean Strickland's particular case, I think he just picked it because it's a random piece of the culture war right now. The reason that new Star Trek is bad is because it's woke. Because Star Trek has never been woke. It's never
Yes,
been
of course.
culturally progressive in any way. It's not a utopian vision of humanity's future where we've solved racism and gotten rid of money.
Yeah.
So anyway,
he's basically the only thing they have that's even vaguely close to a star in that division, apart from
what a tragedy.
Drekus.
Yep.
Drekus. I mean, yeah.
Comes
So
out, I
basically,
guess.
you've got Imavov, who's like totally fine, but has no nothing memorable about him at all. Drekus, who just got absolutely thumped in one of the most humiliating performances, in recent memory. And then you got Sean. And you've also got the understanding that Kamzat is going to fight once a year.
Yep.
And that if you try and do the classic thing of like lining these guys up one after the other, you are literally putting 12 months gaps between all of them.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think they'll just do Strickland. God help us.
Probably. Yep. Probably. Well, that's for tomorrow. We can can kill ourselves tomorrow, Phil. Today, we have more undercard slop to talk about. So let's take a break. When we come back, there's a lot of tragedy on this card, honestly. What wasn't dull was depressing. And we're going to talk about that. Uros Medic versus Jeff Neal, Melchizedek Costa versus Dan Ige, etc., etc. Actually, that might be it. But we're going to talk about that after this. Hey, thanks for listening to this week's Heavy Hands. If you like what you hear, you might consider supporting us on our frankly underpriced Patreon. Not that what you find on there is particularly good, but it is only $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/heavyhands to find fight commentaries, bonus episodes, and more as often as we can be bothered to post them. Patreon.com/heavyhands. We hope you enjoy. Now, back to the show. Welcome back to Heavy Hands. Let's talk about some abject tragedy, shall we?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Two guys I have quite a lot of fondness for. Jeff Neal and Dan Ige. Both got absolutely crushed. And in a sense, both were very fast, but also gave me the impression that, I don't know if this is too doom and gloom, but these guys might be done.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in particular, it's like Jeff Neal getting put away with a one-hitter quitter is a bad sign, and certainly Dan Ige getting put away with one clean shot is a bad sign. So, for both of them as historically pretty durable fighters, in Ige's case, a phenomenally durable fighter, any finish at all, especially on the heels of the first fight where I can recall him getting badly hurt by a punch, these are bad signs for Dan Ige. Yeah. And for Jeff Neal, this was just doubly tragic because everybody knows. I was really hoping for a redemptive outcome for Jeff Neal after that story, that profile came out about his struggles, and nope, he just got his fucking clock cleaned by Uros Medic.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I was advising caution. Or at least where we were talking about the, when someone's coming out of something like this, you just never know how it's going to affect them. Because, you ideally, you want to be going in there thinking
shackles are off.
Coming in. Sorry, what's that?
Like the shackles are off. I'm free. I can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want them, they're going to be coming in and they're going to be, refreshed and healthy and focused and all this other kind of stuff, and they're fighting someone who's not that good, and you're just like, yeah, sure, how are they not going to win? And that's the thing, you just never know how it's gonna pan out. What is the duct tape holding someone together in terms of how well they're focusing on a fight, or maybe even what was the catalyst for them cleaning up their sometimes what was the catalyst for them cleaning up their life? Was it starting to realize that they couldn't hang with people in the gym anymore? You just never know. And the one thing you kind of learn is just never put any stock into things like that. I mean, we picked Jeff Neal with relative confidence, not for any of those reasons, but just because he's historically a better fighter than Uros Medic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he just got clipped and one and done.
All those southpaw adjustments we talked about him showing against RDA, I don't think any of them were visibly present in this fight. He was, and I got to be honest, I got a little worried when Neal's coach, when Saif Saud was actually interviewed before the fight, possibly before the event, whatever. It was on the UFC broadcast, and they were asking about the game plan, and he was like, he basically described it as like, wait and see, like, be cautious. And I was like, I don't know if we want to put our faith in Jeff Neal's positional understanding against a fellow southpaw to just kind of like ride out the most dangerous part of the fight. And this did lead to a matchup where at one point, this is everyone knows now, my new hobby horse. In fact, I'm working on the first piece I've written in a long time to talk about this. MMA fighters constantly circling the wrong way. This did lead to a pretty funny, like, 40-second period where we have two southpaws both circling away from each other's left hands. Both going to the weak side. How often do you see that in, like, boxing? Two southpaws just sort of shimmying away from a position where they can line up their own shots.
Yep.
You know? And then it's funny, like, we get to it's not funny, it's horrible, but we get to the finishing sequence. Jeff Neal tries to throw a check hook, and he overshoots it. He connects with, like, the forearm, so it's not like the punch is going to stop Medic in his tracks anyway. But he throws what is clearly meant to be a check hook, but he can't get his back foot to actually pivot. So he just ends up directly in front of Medic. And because his punch doesn't connect, he gets deaded. So at the one moment when he really should have pivoted towards that quote-unquote power side, he couldn't make his body do it. And just ended up in a worse position as a result. So
Yeah, he'd already been hit by one pretty clean right hand from Medic, and then
he was an instinctive.
He just get hit.
Go on.
Yeah, and then he just gets hit like right across the plane of his body, like nothing to stop it, directly on the temple, I think.
Yeah,
and it just instantly out like a light. I mean, Medic is fun.
Oh, no doubt, no question.
Like I said, he's just Nico Price. He's just like, what if you had someone with. Because, normally punching power comes coupled with other athletic gifts, almost by nature.
Right.
You've got just all the parts of your body tied together. You are naturally athletic, which means that you can generate power, which means that you're strong, which means that you're fast, which means that you're seeing shots coming, you're absorbing them well, and you've got strong bones and all this other kind of stuff. So, most of the time, people who hit hard also have, many ancillary physical gifts.
Right.
Sometimes, every now and again,
you
get someone who just hits hard. That's it.
So you get a guy who just has a weird body that has great leverage and no other athletic abilities. He just has a weird rubber bandy build that allows him to transfer a huge amount of weight into his shots, and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah,
no one. Price, and now you get Uros Medic.
No one's gonna say that Medic is not fun. He's a fucking super entertaining glass cannon. I mean, what's not to like about that? It's just a mid-card action mainstay. I think that is how he should be treated, and should be a fun player in the welterweight division as a result. But it was sad. It was sad to see Jeff Neal go out like that.
Yeah. It's hard to feel like Medic is a better fighter than him, but I mean, he did. I thought Medic did look good in the very brief amount of time we saw him.
Yeah.
In terms of he was accurate with his counterpunching. He looked he looked quick and sharp and less wild than he normally does.
I mean, the
I
finishing
still,
sequence
not going to trust him to be able to.
The finishing sequence.
Sorry, what was that?
The finishing sequence was pretty fucking wild. He
Yeah.
Jeff Neal is hurt. He runs after him. He does like a jumping front kick. And then his feet get completely out of position. He ends up like he has to like duck under his guard with his feet totally squared up. And then he sort of crab walks to the side and just starts slinging hooks. So I wouldn't say it was super clean. It's also at the point of the fight, I suppose, where he was just in kill mode. So you can forgive him some technical snafus for that. But no hate on Uros Medic at all. He's a lot of fun. But
is it Medic or Medic?
I think it's Medic. That's what they keep saying on the broadcast. I've been saying Medic all this time.
And I've been following you. My beloved mentor. In the way of picking fights incorrectly and betraying yourself.
Yeah, my personal theory is that it is supposed to be pronounced Medic. He's saying it wrong in order to better fit his nickname, which is the Doctor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is a good nickname. I always got to give a shout out to an actual, what passes for a clever nickname. It's not a high bar in this sport. I'm going to give Uros Medic props for the Doctor. That's a good one. Other tragic result. You were about to get onto this before I started rambling more about the tragedy of Jeff Neal, but Dan Ige Melquizael Costa, another, as I said, very bad sign, I think in particular for Dan Ige, to be reaching a point in his career where he is suddenly getting really badly hurt. But what did you make of this fight?
Yeah, I mean, the Pitbull fight, I think, was just a bad sign.
Yeah.
That's why I did not pick Dan Ige, even though, much like the Jeff Neal fight, I was like, I think he's just better than this guy.
Yep.
Like, in terms of the number of people he'll be able to beat over the course of his career and so on. But yeah, it's always a problem when you see someone who's getting stuck in the middle ground between like being a crafty veteran and being the young fighter, right?
Right.
He's just got out-slicked by Patricio Pitbull, and he couldn't be the young man in that fight either. He couldn't like try and drown him in volume or pace. He couldn't find that in him, and to be stuck in that kind of limbo is a bad sign, as well as, you're talking to someone with one of the best chins we've ever seen getting badly hurt in the fight. And I was just like, maybe I won't pick him against Melquizael Costa, even though I'm still not sure whether Melquizael Costa is very good. I think, the finishing sequence, I do actually think this genuinely was an early stoppage, but I don't think Costa basically just like threw a bunch of punches into Ige's guard. Ige clearly, he wasn't completely out. He had his hands up and so on. But I'm not super sad about it, because I'm never upset to see someone get the fight called off when they're in a compromised position, unless
right.
Because it's just like don't get spinning back kicked in the head. But yeah, you can tell that his chin clearly isn't gone, because he wasn't instantly KO'd by getting
that
spinning
shot,
back kicked.
Yeah, that is the hardest shot you could possibly take to the face.
Yeah, spinning back kicked in the face whilst in a crouch.
Yep.
And he was like, "Ow, I'm really badly hurt by this."
Yep.
But yeah, I just don't trust him to now be able to win physical fights with big giant opponents, or crafty people of his generation. And if his durability is cracking, which it clearly is, I think unfortunately the Calvin Kattar route is probably not too far away. And Calvin Kattar, frankly, had a better technical base to fall back on than Dan Ige.
Not to mention just being, taller and rangier for the division. That's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also like the lack of technical development in Ige's game. This has been a problem for him for a long time, but it's going to be a really big problem for him now, and it was in this fight, which is that he doesn't have a fucking range game.
Yeah.
His only way to close in on people is to time them with his defense. You know, I was talking to Zane about this. I said it sort of has like the Chad Mendes approach. Chad Mendes didn't have a jab, but he would catch and pitch. He would use his opponent's jab, defending it to get a read on the range and then explode into the pocket. This is kind of Dan Ige's only way of accessing middle distance as well, is to time some range weapon of the opponent's, because he just doesn't have them. And what this fight actually reminded me of was Zaleski dos Santos versus Chidi Njokuani.
Yeah.
Because this was one where, like, Ige tried to pressure. He immediately got Costa against the fence and immediately secured a clinch. And I was like, oh, he's just going to do exactly what Christian Rodriguez did, but with, like, more power. So maybe that'll make the difference. Because we did see in that Rodriguez fight, if you're intent on wrestling this man, you can put him up against the fence in a clinch over and over again. The clinch is the only thing you have to add. He's already putting himself against the fence. But he couldn't make any, like, clear, immediate headway there. I think he got frustrated by that, and then it very quickly turned into a fight where, counterintuitively from our perspective, but I think very naturally for many MMA fighters, he found himself just stuck at long range against a dangerous kicker. Like,
yep.
He's just hanging out like, okay, where's my entry? And all Costa is giving him, he's either meeting him in the clinch, where Costa's not bad, by the way, for all that Christian Rodriguez was able to...
that's what I was going to say, is that he is actually quite... That's the other thing about it being the Chidi versus ZDS fight.
Right.
Is that he's actually quite nasty there. Like...
Yeah.
He was landing like little short elbows. I think he landed a knee on the break at some point. He's quite potent.
His whole striking repertoire is very Muay Thai.
Yeah.
The kicking game, the entries into the clinch, and that's a good point. Like it smacked of Njokuani Zaleski for those two reasons. Like, he can both neutralize and actually punish if you overextend and collide with him. And if you hang out at range, he will just feed you a diet of nasty, unpredictable kicks.
And without, like, a consistent mid-range weapon, Ige was completely unable to build any exchanges in the area of the fight that he could actually win in.
Yep.
This is basically the same equation that allowed John Jones to retire undefeated.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I think in a way that I didn't see beforehand, sort of just a bad style matchup for Dan Ige, but I also think at a different point in Ige's career, he might have been able to survive that shot, and maybe just through sheer force of will would have made something different happen. Just getting more aggressive as the fight goes on. We know Ige can do that. So, combination of factors, but it's undeniably a very bad omen for Dan Ige to suddenly be just getting badly hurt in several fights in a row.
Yeah, I mean, this is also one of the things that simply happens if you're in the Dan Ige position, where you're clearly better than you're clearly like much better than the average fighter. You're clearly not quite good enough to be like a title contender.
Yep.
Is that they will simply use you to match against title contenders over and over again, and you will have a career of extremely tough fights against people who are frankly mostly better than you. Nothing more so than this position guarantees you to be in tough losing fights.
I mean, look at fucking Dan Ige's record. These are his losses. Melquizael Costa, of course. Patricio Pitbull, probably an all-time great in some metric, former champion in another promotion. Lerone Murphy, current top contender. Diego Lopez, 2-time title fighter. Bryce Mitchell, that's maybe the odd one out here. Movsar Evloev, Josh Emmett, Korean Zombie, Calvin Kattar. It's a fucking murderer's row.
Yep.
And yeah, he was able to hang out against those guys without actually beating them for a long time. Now he's going to start getting squished by them, it seems.
I mean, he's getting squished by people worse than that. He probably will continue to do so. Again, I think the Kattar path is a fairly inevitable one at this point. As I said, there's no position in UFC which guarantees you're going to get. Yeah. You're going to have basically a harder career relative to who you are as a fighter. No one else gets consistently matched with people who are just like 10, 15% better or more better than them, than the people who find themselves in this kind of position. The fact that a guy like Josh Emmett has had the remarkable longevity that he has, considering the position that he's in, is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys like Tim Boach back in the day would have just a combination of tough fights where he would assert his position in the division and fights where he just got fucking smoked.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just, I think, it's just such a strain to put on someone, and I think it's unfortunately told for Ige as it told for Kattar before him, and this is essentially him passing the torch to the person who's going to be the next Dan Ige.
Yep. So, otherwise on the card, I mean, it was a pretty dreadful viewing experience overall. It didn't help that two of the exciting results were quite depressing for anybody who's been following this sport and this promotion and getting to know these athletes for as long as we have. I will say there were still, they were buried in the mire that this whole card sort of produced, but there were some promising results on the undercard, some promising performances. Flyweight Alabi Idris had a nice comeback win over Ode Osborne. Likewise, Alden Correa had a nice fight, granted against an opponent that he absolutely should have smushed the way he did, but it's nice to see a couple of exciting young flyweights getting back on the winning track. And in the curtain jerker, very first fight on the prelims, Carly Giudice put up now her third straight win. And I'm trying to remember, because she got to the UFC and quickly lost her first two fights, if I'm not mistaken. But one of those was a split decision to Gabriela Hernandez, who has been looking really good since then. And Giudice is possibly the only interesting prospect at women's flyweight right now. She has an exciting striking style. She actually exits and enters the pocket on angles. She throws away shots to set up other shots, and she moves around a lot and seems to have the stamina to do it without losing a step, without losing speed as the fight goes on. She's definitely got some work to do. Like, Juliana Miller has nothing going for her except being super tough. Otherwise, she is one of the worst fighters in the UFC. I'll give her credit, actually. She clearly worked on her striking, and as awkward as she looked, as bad as her mechanics were, she actually did some sensible things with her hands in this fight. She put some combinations out there. She used her jab. I'll give Miller credit for that. She has improved. At the same time, I would have liked to see Giudice run over her a little more convincingly. It was a fight where it was like, no question, Giudice won every round. But against an opponent who didn't respond as badly as, say, her last opponent, Nicole Cagliari, did, who didn't make as many panicked defensive moves and give away huge openings, Giudice found herself in a little bit more of a sparring match this time. Nonetheless, anybody who has not been paying attention to her, you will enjoy watching her fight. She is a cool, interesting striker. I just like to see a young fighter who throws straight, technical punches, who doesn't lose position going for those punches. Like, she doesn't throw herself off balance or overextend. She often just touches the target. Her fights definitely have an impression of the knockout sort of just building itself. Building up attrition, building up reactions from the opponent, never having to force it, which makes sense because she doesn't look like a world-beating athlete, although she is also pretty fucking quick. So, she's definitely...
I will be sure to tune into her getting thrown on her head by Valentina Shevchenko in 3 years. Also, I have to apologize that... Well, I have no idea how to actually watch the early prelims anymore because they're not on either one of the things I own, so I can't see this fight. But yeah, I have to apologize to her because I think I'm just always going to pronounce her name Judici. As in subjudice, like the Latin for like under a judge is just what I read whenever I see it.
Oh. I'm
just gonna have to. I'm not gonna do it deliberately.
Phil, you've never seemed like... more posh. I can't help but read her name as an obscure Latin phrase. Yeah, ecce homo.
Yep.
That was me calling you a homo in Latin.
I figured.
Okay, let's take one.
Doesn't it mean like listen homo?
Ecce homo. I got something to say.
Yeah.
Let's take one more break, and when we come back, I think there is... Fortunately, we're pretty deep into the show, because I think there's really only one, maybe 1.5 fights worth talking about. Actually, combine them, there's maybe one fight worth talking about from next week's card. We're going to talk about Brandon Moreno, Loner Kavanagh, and we'll maybe discuss Chito Vera, David Martinez as well after this. Supporting us on Patreon is great, but there are other, even easier ways to support the show. In fact, you can follow this simple 2-step plan. Step 1, make a friend. Any friend at all. Step 2, tell them about Heavy Hands. In lieu of that, you could leave a positive rating or review for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Back to the show. Welcome back to Heavy Hands. We've got just a couple fights to look at from next week's card. We've just done a huge deep dive, first trying to figure out how to pronounce, and then trying to determine what is the origin and meaning of Lonnie Kavanagh's name. We're gonna stick with Lonnie. I think that's the closest our foolish English-speaking tongues can approximate to a name which, from what I can tell, is Chinese of some extraction, some sort of Chinese. I don't know
what kind of Chinese, but yes.
We couldn't figure it out. We're sticking with Lonnie Kavanagh.
Yep.
He's fighting Brandon Moreno, which sounds like a terrible idea. I know.
What are they doing with flyweight at the moment? Is this like the South Park episode where they make fun of how Family Guy writes their jokes, and it's just the manatees going and retrieving a ball, and then it shows you they retrieve the 3 parts of the joke.
Lois, this reminds me of that time that Benjamin Disraeli chastised me for poor economic tax policy. A cutaway gag.
Yeah. They just seem to be like, this is just like Magic 8 Ball matchmaking or whatever. It's just like, and today we will be matching Brandon Moreno with a very talented prospect who looked like he wasn't ready in his last fight.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, this is a short notice booking. It was meant to be Brandon Moreno versus Azu Almabayev.
Sure, I guess he's getting Brandon Moreno back on whatever the track for Brandon Moreno might be at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if we could take an angle where we complain about, because this just struck me, like, is there a single matchup with Brandon Moreno in it that I would be excited about right now? Not that I don't enjoy Brandon Moreno's fights, but that he is he's in the unfortunate position of being like a fully explored commodity as a flyweight contender. You know, we have seen his best performances. We've seen his ceiling, and he's fought everyone, and there's really no one has any desire to see him in the championship spot again. It's a position we've seen many, many fighters in over the years where they just have to keep plugging away because the MMA gods are kind of done with them as a champion. He's in contender hell,
and again,
you know?
And again, it very, very quickly becomes an extremely tough place to be because they will match you very, very hard every single time.
Right.
Obvious examples of this being like Robert Whittaker and back in the day, like Joe Benavidez.
Yeah.
Like when they fell off, suddenly it's just like a series of brutal finishes and or fights that, you know, you're like, God, how is he losing this?
Yeah. It's a position that basically every former champion ends up in at some point. You just become like elite gatekeeper. Like, I know he hasn't been super active, but like, look at how they've matched Kamaru Usman since losing the title. Fucking Khamzat Chimaev and then top contender Joaquin Buckley. Like, you don't get easy fights once you have been in that prime position. That's where Brandon Moreno is. Of course, he has still been largely winning in that position. And was I excited about the idea of him fighting Asu Almabayev? No, not really. Maybe it's just me being precious about Kavanagh being like an obviously more promising prospect that I would have rather seen that than this.
I mean, why didn't they do Brandon Moreno against Kyoji Horiguchi?
That's a great fucking question. If you're going to insist
rather
on
than matching both of these guys against nobodies.
That is
no offense to Asu Almabayev.
No, that's a very pertinent question. Yeah. If they're going to insist on doing the Kyoji Horiguchi runaround, then at least give him people that fans know. So yeah, that would have been the ideal matchup. Brandon Moreno versus Kyoji Horiguchi for a fight night main event, that would have been just fine. And looking at how Kyoji has been turning up, he would have shown up for the date too, unlike Asu Almabayev. Instead, we get this. I mean, one way or the other, we are now stuck with Lonnie Kavanagh, who just had a big career setback, big prospect loss, not the kind of thing that a young, talented fighter can't come back from, but certainly the kind of thing which doesn't make it seem like a good idea to match him with perennial elite top contender, now perennial elite gatekeeper, Brandon Moreno. On short notice, no less. Especially given that in his big loss, he pushed a pace that he couldn't maintain and gassed.
Yeah.
That's especially a bad sign to then immediately put him into a 5-round main event with a guy who has fought 5-round fights like a dozen times now.
Yeah. It seems insanely ambitious from the Kavanagh team.
Yes.
They simply just shouldn't have accepted this fight.
I'm sure he is gunning to get back on the horse. I'm sure he wants it. I have no doubt. He's like, yeah, give me an even bigger challenge because I know that was a screw up and I can prove everybody wrong, et cetera, et cetera. These are the things a fighter thinks. These are not the things that a manager, imagining that such a thing as a real manager exists in this sport. These are not the sort of actions that a manager should be allowing a promising young prospect like Kavanagh to attempt.
Yep. And as such, there isn't a whole lot which makes me feel like you can plausibly pick Kavanagh to win this one, unless you're, you basically have to pick that Moreno is going to what we saw in the Tyra fight is the start of a sudden and precipitous collapse.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is, honestly. Suddenly, he'd never been finished before, and then, this isn't exactly him getting flatlined or whatever, but it is him being, it is, him being controlled on the floor that we've never really seen before. He's always been able to.
We saw it from him against Pantoja to some extent.
To some extent, but he wasn't really, he was never really like put into checkmate positions.
That's true.
Quite like that.
That's true.
At least in their second two fights.
That's true. I'm willing to say that
two?
It's Moreno Pantoja. They fought 3 times. One of them was an exhibition in the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, that was the one where he got tapped.
Yeah. It's maybe not a great sign. It's also it's somewhat easy to overlook regarding this specific matchup because that is Tatsuro Taira's specialty. He's a big, strong submission grappler who can basically be a dangerous submission artist against anybody in the division that allows him to tangle with them on the ground. That is not Lonnie Kavanagh's game. Lonnie Kavanagh is like he's like Ludovic Klein is kind of how he operates. Like maybe a little more technical basis, but fighting from long range. He's a sniper, big single powerful strikes. Moves around a lot, mixes up his targets well, and brutally punishes people who come into the pocket, sort of Jose Aldo style, with like tight combinations of absolutely full power shots. And as I said before, he paid for this in that bout with Charles Johnson. Because as much as he was able to hit Johnson at will, and he really was, Johnson correctly sussed out that Kavanagh was hitting him at will by pouring every ounce of gas in the tank into every shot. And it was an unsustainable pace. And that's classic prospect loss material. It's definitely the kind of result that you can learn from and improve following. But that would probably necessitate a step back or at least a lateral move to test whether that improvement has been made. On the other hand, I don't think Brandon Moreno is going to do what Charles Johnson did. Johnson walked through a goddamn hailstorm of powerful punches, getting very little moment-to-moment success until the very end of the fight, just determined to keep the pressure on at all costs. That's not really Brandon Moreno's style. There was maybe a point in his career where he was more willing to do that, like against, in certain of the Figueiredo fights. He was pretty aggressive with his hands, but I guess that's one saving grace for Kavanagh here, is that Moreno tends to like to hang out at the range where Kavanagh is comfortable and is able to manage his pace simply because he's not being forced to throw to back the opponent off as often.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the route is that, you can, is that potentially Kavanagh can, lure Moreno into a kind of pot-shotting matchup at range, where the fact that he's, fast and powerful and single shot, and that he's, presumably his team is not incredibly stupid, and they're going to be try and pace yourself for a 5-rounder. And I do think Moreno is definitely on the downswing, and as such, within the Whittaker and Benavidez type roles, that is actually often pretty sharp when it actually happens. Both of those guys had sort of strong post primes and then sudden, complete collapses, where they lost to everyone who got put up against them. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard to find a way to call this one for Lonnie Kavanagh in a way that isn't just he's going to hot shot Brandon Moreno and then hit him with a big explosive punch, and it's going to hurt Brandon Moreno worse than he's ever been hurt in his life.
Yeah.
Including all the incredibly powerful clean shots that he got hit from. He got hit from Davison Figueiredo, one of the biggest pound-for-pound punchers in MMA history.
Yeah.
Or that Moreno is going to be so incredibly shot that he, somehow gets outpaced by Lonnie Kavanagh. Or that, Lonnie Kavanagh simply, has his last fight somehow was a catalyst, and he suddenly just immediately puts everything together, and everything clicks. And occasionally, this does happen.
That can happen.
Turn around from
especially with an athlete of this caliber, right?
Yeah, they just suddenly, they are incredibly motivated by that loss, and they turn around and they just look far, far better in their next fight.
That would be nice.
None of it's anything I could actually consciously pick to happen, though. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's not the. I think we definitely saw that Moreno's chin is starting to go in the Tyra fight. He got pretty badly staggered by, I think it was it like a short right hand?
I think
Tyra?
so. Yeah, it tends to be the shot Tyra hurts people with. I mean, yeah, he also. I mean, I think we've been saying that he doesn't quite have the chin that he once had since the Figueiredo series, because that went from a fight where he was somehow the functional power puncher in their first fight. Figueiredo was actually easier to hurt, even though I don't think Moreno hits nearly as hard, just because Moreno could tank everything Figueiredo threw at him, to a fight where he gets knocked down like 2 or 3 times.
As
the series,
that's a good shout.
As the series goes on. So yeah, at some point, and I'll say this, like, Kavanagh does keep those super fast, powerful counter combinations chambered and ready to go. Moreno likes to stay really heavy on his front foot and lean over his toes when he jabs, throws the right hand, anything. And he's relatively aware. He does, he covers up, he gets underneath punches, but he does kind of linger in this forward crouching posture. I can see there's a possibility that Kavanagh counters a Moreno jab with a right hand over the top, left hook from underneath, and really hurts Brandon Moreno. That's possible. I would even say somewhat likely that he is at least able to land those kinds of. I would say it's very likely he's able to land those shots really clean and hard on Moreno. The question is, can he hurt him badly enough to win as a result, or can he continue doing it consistently over 5 rounds? And it's also that's the kind of thing that I would expect a veteran of Moreno's caliber to also be able to work around, even if it's not in the prettiest way. Like, if that results in him saying, okay, well, we're going to do kicks and I'm going to start shooting into the clinch and trying to out-wrestle you. There's a lot of ways that Moreno could take the fight to not. What I'm saying is Moreno getting hurt on the counter is not something that Kavanagh can necessarily make happen over and over.
Yeah.
It's very dependent on Moreno continuing to make the same mistakes. Moreno can continue to make the same mistakes. Having said that, he's not the most reliable technical fighter in the sport, is he? But it just feels like a very thin dynamic to hinge an entire pick on. Is like, okay, Kavanagh out kicks him at long range and then catches him stumbling into the pocket. Could happen.
Yeah.
I think it is definitely possible.
My recency bias. I think it's just my recency bias. It's making me want to pick Kavanagh, even though it's just like a stupid pick. I'm just like, well, does Brandon Moreno work without the best chin in the world?
Yeah.
I mean, he can himself, he's himself like a very good wrestler. Mm-hmm. Do I trust Kavanagh to be able to survive on the floor with him for extended amounts of time, to not just, give up position on the mat? I think I'm going to win. I don't know. I'm going to go with the vibes pick. I didn't listen to my vibes, and I'm going to pick Kavanagh.
I mean, I see it.
I think
I do
that,
see
like,
it.
I think that, like, I'm just going to do what I did with Ige. Like, we saw the signs of Ige cracking against Pitbull.
Yeah.
And I think we saw the signs of Moreno cracking against Tyra. And I think when people go, they go real bad at that kind of level.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see it. But you know me, I'm a cautious fight picker at my core, and I always hesitate to pick like this guy wins the fight via finish. And I think if he doesn't finish Moreno, the big problem just becomes like, I mean, here's the thing. I'm questioning the stamina that we saw in the Charles Johnson fight, but as I said, that was really about Johnson understanding what it was costing Kavanagh to fight back. Really understanding and taking the kind of long view of the matchup, which is very difficult for most fighters to take. To say like, I mean, my win condition is to lose 3 dozen exchanges in a row. That's a difficult thing for the average fighter to accept. And
and do I, if I trusted Moreno,
right,
to wade through fire and pressure a opponent who I knew wouldn't withstand, wouldn't be able to stand up to sustained pressure, and so on, I would just fully expect him to beat Tatsuro Taira, which I did.
Yeah.
And
it didn't work out.
He wasn't like, despite the fact that he got finished, on the ground, and even then, as I said at the time, it wasn't like the best finish of all time. I wasn't like, wow, Brandon Moreno was cooked there. He wasn't winning on the feet.
Right.
Against Tatsuro Taira.
And that was just him against somebody who, Taira is bigger than Kavanagh, but and I'm sure that was part of it. He clearly didn't feel comfortable fighting as with Sean Strickland, or I suppose the opposite of Sean Strickland. It's very rare to see Moreno fighting somebody who isn't much shorter than him. So I'm sure the height had something to do with it, but it was also just that Taira's style uses that height and reach. And Kavanagh doesn't have those physical dimensions, but he does have a long-range style.
Yep.
So yeah, if it turns out to be a fight where Moreno can't figure out how to press Kavanagh, and Kavanagh's been to plenty of decisions, like he's fine if you don't force him to exceed his limits with the pressure. And if it's that kind of fight, then I could totally see Kavanagh just picking up a close decision or possibly getting a finish at some point. I'm still going to take Moreno. I think, there's so much room to make. There's so many options for him to adjust to what may turn out to be a difficult, long-range striking matchup. And even if it's really hard to trust him to take the best decision, I do trust him to be tough and scrappy and to keep trying things. And he's also got the ground game to go to. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I feel that the exact same Kavanagh we saw before may not be completely dead in this kind of matchup as I initially feared. And then there's the possibility that he may very well have suddenly gotten better, having taken his prospect loss. I just don't like it. You just shouldn't be taking this fight immediately after losing to Charles Johnson.
Nope, I agree. But but also sometimes, you're just like, there's no way Robert Whittaker loses to Ranier de Ridder.
Right. These things happen.
And then you're like, well, he wasn't looking great before that, was he? And you're like, no, it wasn't. And, similarly, it's like, there's no way Dan Ige would lose to Mikizel Costa. He's like, this guy's just a dynamic one-hitter quitter. What's he going to do? Is he going to finish Dan Ige?
Yeah.
And there's none. Similarly, there's no way Brandon Moreno loses to Lonnie Kavanagh. But it's probably just recency bias. But it does feel like the turning point has been there for Brandon Moreno, and he's only 31, but he's 31 of after just an absurdly tough career.
Oh, yeah. 34 fights. The career started in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like a 15-year career, and a big chunk of those 34 fights at this point are against the best fighters in the world, and many of them are brutal wars.
Yep. He's been in the UFC for a bit under 10 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, just brutal fights pretty much all the way.
Yep.
Wow,
they have on Brandon Moreno's Wikipedia page under championships and accomplishments, they have the Slacky Awards.
Cool.
Where the fuck are the handies on fighters' Wikipedia pages?
That is a good point.
We need the handies to be officially recognized. What did he win a Slacky for?
It should just be on someone's Wikipedia. Worst brain thinking, 2024, 2025.
Yeah. 2021 technical turnaround of the year, Jack Slack gave him.
Yeah, was more than fair.
Maybe we need more serious awards to be commemorated in this way. I can't see anybody putting...
The name itself, I think a Slacky is like debatable.
Yeah.
A handy is not.
Yeah. An instant I see what you did there name, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, yeah, I think it's also that nobody's going to be putting under accomplishments worst brain thinking 2023. Glue Factory Employee of the Year is not going to show up on any even somewhat official documents. But anyway, yeah, I just got to stick with Moreno. I mean, I know he can pressure, he can get in people's grills. It's basically what he did to Steve Erceg, and yeah, maybe he's kind of getting hurt more than he used to, but he's kind of been getting hurt a little bit off and on for many years now, and is still out there, very rarely getting finished. The only finish is somebody completely out grappling him, which is the one thing I'm not really worried about happening here. So,
yep,
got to stick with Moreno. We shall see.
Yep, I just have a bad feeling.
Yeah, we were also going to talk about David Martinez, Chito Vera, but I don't think we need to. We certainly don't have to fill any time, and I don't particularly want to. I'll just say that David Martinez is really fast and otherwise not particularly well put together. But at this point, being really fast may be enough to beat Chito Vera. It was enough to beat It was enough to beat Rob Font.
Yeah, so basically it's just going to be like presumably Chito Vera just like slowly turning around in a circle.
Yep.
As Martinez like circle strafes him and runs away.
Yep.
And then like jumps in and tries to hit him and then runs away again. It probably won't look particularly pretty. It will be, I think, something like the fight with Ayman Zahabi, with the exception that like Martinez seems both like fundamentally and approach-wise kind of worse than Zahabi. Zahabi has like a very, I think, kind of courageous style where he wagers everything he has on just outworking the opponent.
Yep.
And Martinez is sort of like...
He's flightier.
He's attempting to be safe by just like leaping in and jumping around all over the place, but is much more athletic and much more athletic and durable than Zahabi is. So we might not necessarily get the sort of fairly inevitable point where Zahabi got almost killed by Chito Vera. It might just be like him just like sprinting around Chito sort of glares at him like a particularly inert Dark Souls boss.
Yes. You just see Chito Vera on the horizon.
Yeah.
You walk up to him, he says, I don't know, Chito Vera has like an actual heartwarming backstory. I don't want to make light of his daughter's ailment. I'm trying to think of a Dark Souls style, Lucretia, why? Type of thing that Brandon Moreno would say as you get into battle with him.
Yeah. But you'd also hear the music like side go, oh.
Yeah.
So it'd be like Cheeto, the unmoving, and a really big life bar would appear at the bottom of the screen, and you just know that you are going to be there for like an hour.
He's there protecting another giant statue, which is his wife. His wife was turned into a statue, and he is fated to eternally guard her monument as a giant statue which walks around.
Yep.
Hey, FromSoft, give us the money. We got a good one for you. Okay. Well, that is it for this week's Heavy Hands. It's been a while since I have put any written work out, but I may as well mention it now, if only to give further incentive for me to finish the goddamn thing. At some point soon on my Substack, there will be a piece with a title something like, "Why do MMA fighters all circle the wrong way?" So please keep an eye out for that. I will, of course, publicize it with a link in the show description and elsewhere when it actually comes out. Otherwise,
what sort of publication date are we thinking?
I'm thinking early 2029.
Winter or
early 2029 seems like a good time. I really think that MMA will have rebounded by then, and the audience will be just slavering for a piece like that. Of course,
at least you know that people won't be circling in the right direction by then.
I was just going to say, it will be relevant, so I'm not worried about that. Anyway, find us on Twitter at EvilGregJackson, at BoxingBush, and also apologies. I know I had some audio issues last week. I'm still working out the setup with this new computer, new version of Audacity, et cetera, et cetera. So if anything ends up hinky with this episode, it will improve in future and get back to the standard to which you are all accustomed. Anyway, we'll be back next week to talk about, I guess, Moreno versus Kavanagh, and then we do have Holloway Oliveira 2 right around the corner, and that is actually a half-decent, well, it's sort of a half-decent fight card. It's got Holloway Oliveira. I mean, it can't be that bad. Can't be that bad. So we'll be talking to you about that next week, and until then, if you came here today for the finer points of face punching, you know you came to the right place. This has been Heavy Hands.